Let's speak with Marilyn Hawes, CEO of Freedom from Abuse. Marilyn, good afternoon to you. Nice to have you with us. Very passionate, a very fluent example of where Samantha sees this story. On the point of the inquiry, or the lack of an inquiry, what's your take on this? Because, sure, Jess Phillips might be the latest minister, but she's certainly not the only one.
No, it's all about cover-up and silence, and what Sam said is absolutely right. Nobody wants to actually face the reality. This isn't about being racist. I'm not racist. I've got a Nigerian stepdaughter. I'm not racist. But you cannot get away from the reality of certain cultures. So, for example, I lived in Portugal for 2 years. When I went to Portugal, I took my humour, my food tastes, everything with me, yeah? And when people come in here, they bring their cultures, their faith, their way of living with them. And you cannot get away from the fact. I was on a programme the other day about little girl Sarah Sharif, the little girl that was so brutally murdered. Within that culture, you have this thing about the men, the young Muslim girls are not allowed out, so they do see us white girls who've got the freedom to go out and about as easy meat. You can't get away from that. That is the reality. And I mean, Jess Phillips should be ashamed of herself, but then you have to think, look at the control freak called Keir Starmer. I wouldn't trust Keir Starmer with my dustbin, quite honestly. Yeah. He's so flip-floppy. But if you look at the stats, the money that has been spent bringing and highlighting this, and I think it should be called exploitation gangs, frankly. Whole load of them now have come in on the boats from Albania. Have gone straight into the gangs, paid for by gangs over here, that have been swallowed up into those gangs, that are running the drug network, etc., etc. It's just absolutely overwhelming, this country, quite honestly. But Alexis J., who you might remember did the ICSA inquiry. Yep. I've got some figures here. So 2014, she found 1,400 kids being part of child sexual exploitation, predominantly Pakistani, British-born men, right? January 2024, now we're only going a year ago, the National Health Service in Rochdale said they had referred to them 260 victims of sexual exploitation that hadn't been acted on. Andy Burnham, who's the mayor, as you know, of Greater Manchester, he knew, I knew about these gangs going on 20-odd years ago. He said he knew about it in the mid-90s. Nobody has done anything. And I'm sorry, Keir Starmer, I'd love to kick his backside from here to the moon and leave him there, quite honestly. He comes out, it's a lack of understanding. No, it's not a lack of understanding. It's ranking competence, incompetence, indifference, fear of being seen as racist because you might be banged up and put in solitary confinement. What sort of country are we living in? No one is trying to incite hatred. What we want is for our principles, our life ethics, our life morals to be upheld in this country. I'm not being funny. Where's the church? Nowhere to be seen. They should be outraged about this, whatever denomination it is. The Muslim groups should be outraged about it, because of course it's not all Muslim men. Let's get that real. Of course it's not. But there are some Pakistani and Bangladeshi who they have so little respect for women, the women they're married to, and they have forced marriages, and there's a lot of frustration that's built up from that. But if you understand, it's the lack of education is jaw-dropping. That they Keir Starmer, lack of understanding. What is there not to understand when you get, and I know this was a case, 2 or 3 12-year-old girls, battered, bruised, crying, terrible mess, go into a police station, and they're told to get back in the taxi that they've just escaped from. Yeah. What is common sense?
Well, what's so unfathomable and tragic about this, and infuriating, Marilyn, is that you don't need to be an expert to work out that this is clearly something that is huge. It's gone unchecked. It still has been allowed, it's been kicked into the long grass. So we've dealt with that now. It's not happening anymore, so we can move on.
No, it's a lot of, what shall we say? I was watching a programme just before I came on about methane in cows.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of methane that comes out of the MP's backsides, quite frankly. I think it's awful. It's hot air. They don't intend to do anything. I mean, the drug gangs are actually recruiting in migrant camps. They're recruiting them. They're recruiting people to be the taxi drivers. They are paying for them to come over. You ask Europol what they think of this government and their lack of ability to actually manage this. But even beyond that, it's, this is everywhere. Every single town, city, seaside resort, you name it, across the UK has this problem. It is a business model that happened in the mid-90s and no one has tackled it. No one has really tried to draw a blank under it. Yeah. As for Yvette Cooper, useless. Absolutely useless. Keir Starmer, useless. I didn't vote for any of them. I think they're all useless. But there's no one taking a moral stand on this. I worry. I've got 8 grandchildren and I really worry what life is going to be like in the UK 10 years from now. I was
sorry, Marilyn, just to interject, because I know we're short of time. Do you sense this is still going on at the same rate that it was? Absolutely, because nobody is inquisitive. Nobody wants to look outside the box with, we might be called racist. We are not racist. We are trying to protect. So the people that are Pakistani, Bangladeshi, whatever, born in this country, because we can't deport them, can we? They need to go down to the younger generations where they are taught, you are in this country, these are our laws, but then they're waving 2 fingers at us, aren't they? Because there's no rooms in the prisons. So, that's all right. I can try and do a bit more and I'll get away with it. And they're not... This is, wherever you look, it's a complete broken mess. But, to be fair to the police, they are hit with a wall of silence so that particular community and lots of other communities... are silenced. They daren't talk about, it is a shame if you're in, Pakistani culture or whatever. Yeah. There's a wall of silence, and as we established earlier, victims are not listened to, and in fact, in some cases, victims have been arrested, for having a bit of a drink. It's like, well, you're 12 years old. Surely there's a story here.
12-year-olds being called child prostitutes. Yeah. I mean, outrageous. And they do know, the police do know, but and it all goes down, I think, to the chief constable. What's the chief constable's attitude on this? Yeah. They don't, they're looking after their pensions, aren't they? The copper on the street, I think, the uniformed police are primarily quite good, they are, but there's still this fear of, well, I'm going to do the report, am I going to be closed down now by my senior officer? Our girls are being raped, murdered, all the rest of it, and grooming does come into this, but I don't think people, well, I know because I go around schools training kids, they don't realise that the person that's part of that gang, the danger for children is a lot also are targeted by children their own age. So you have the hook, the person who hooks this kid in. It's the oldest recruitment drive in the business, isn't it? From Oliver Twist onwards to things like this. Sometimes, Ian, it's their own age. They don't realise. They're in a park, a child the same age comes up to them, offers them something, and before they know it, they've done a drug run and they can't get out of it, or whatever. Indeed. Or they've been raped by 14 men. And this is how it works. It's not just the corner shop. Yeah. There's lots of different ways that a child who's perfectly innocent can be caught up in this, and they're not all the children born the wrong side of the tracks, I can tell you that. There's plenty nice girls who have been caught up in this because they weren't aware by education of what to look for, what to be aware of. I get it. Listen, Marilyn, we could speak for a lot longer, and I hope we speak again. I mean, incredible passion and insight from Marilyn Hawes. She's the CEO of Freedom from Abuse. She tries to educate on this issue, highlight these kind of issues, but a wall of silence over there at Westminster and some of the town halls who don't really want to discuss this too much for some curious reason.